And
There's a clear blue sky here in Portland, Oregon this morning. There's a lot of brightness over the trees. The sun's definitely coming up. It's above the horizon for sure. I woke up this morning and put on my somebody suit. Same old somebody, Robert Beatty. Had a cup of coffee quietly in the dark. And a little while ago, 15 minutes or so, I set off on my commute. How far is it? 50 feet from the house to here. It's a nice commute. Traffic's never bad. I did a little work on the gravel, the pea gravel between the house and here a couple of days ago. It tends to sink into the dirt. So I could hear that crunching underfoot. And then I looked up into the trees, and they're all in blossom. They're extravagant in their blossoming. You know, those green pendant blossoms that are, I'm not even sure what kind of a tree it is. It's like a maple, but I don't think it is. It's spring. In the same way that this woke up, the trees are waking up. The garlic is about 10 inches high. The crimson clover in the garden is luxurious now. It'll blossom in another few weeks, I think. Spent the winter filling the soil with nitrogen. It's all changing. It's nothing but change. And it inspired me to remember this poem. It's a teaching by the Dzogchen master Long Chenpa. Not sure his dates. Before. In the forest, by the example of dead leaves, come to realize that the body, youth, and senses change gradually and do not possess any true essence. By the example of empty lotus ponds, come to realize that various objects of desire, wealth, and prosperity are finally going to change, that there is no true essence in them, and that what is accumulated will always be exhausted. By the example of the change of days, months, and the 4 seasons, come to realize that the blossoming spring flower-like body is subject to change as time passes. Its youth fades away, and the arrival of the Lord of Death is certain. By the example of the fall of ripened fruit, come to realize that all, young, old, and adult, are subject to die, that the time of death is uncertain, and that what is born will die. By the example of the arising of reflections in ponds, come to realize that the various phenomena appear but have no true existence. They are like illusions, a mirage and a water moon, and are certain to be empty of true existence. So we could jump out of bed or struggle our way out of bed, or however we get out of bed, and dive into being, quote, productive. We also could prepare ourselves, take care of all the getting up bathroom functions, and maybe a nice cup of tea or coffee. And then we could honor the truth of impermanence. We could ask the questions. Who am I? What am I doing here? Not in order to get lost in thinking, but to motivate us to make our way to the laboratory, to the experimental ground, where we gather together. It's different from a physical Dharma hall, of course, but we do encourage each other by being here. And following the ancient guidance of the Buddha, we sit quietly upright. Abandoning covetousness and grief concerning the world, letting go of the past and future, placing mindfulness before us. And we notice that there are, in fact, phenomena occurring. The body is nothing but life. It's this life. It has in its nature an essential function of inbreathing and outbreathing. So let us embrace this breathing. It seems almost strange to say that over the years, the breath becomes more and more tangible. The sensations of breathing, more and more real in a certain way, in its impermanence. And we attend to the subtle details, the very first hint of the breath, the initiation of movement, the movement of extension, spreading, increasing the volume of the chest. And then there's the decline and vanishing. As the spring comes, there's many different kinds of blossoming. And the same is true of our sitting here. In addition to the breath and the body sitting here, there are large blossomings sometimes of thoughts. Sometimes there's worry and agitation. Sometimes there's confidence and faith, a sense of clarity and purpose. Sometimes there's wanting, a sense of lack. Sometimes there's fear. Sometimes there's disliking, aversion, even hatred. Sometimes there's sloth and torpor, dullness, sleepiness. Sometimes there's doubt. All these phenomena arise and disappear. They all follow the same music. At first, there's a sense of I am, and I am a meditator. I am meditating. I am attending to my breath. And with practice, there is an evolution toward nature is unfolding, and it includes this that I take to be myself. And so we sit here. A tiny little piece of the earth that's come to life. And we can use in-breathing and out-breathing as a kind of anchor, as a point of stability. As awareness awakens to everything that's happening, moment by moment. Please let us escape from the prison that the mind should be a certain way. It is exactly as it is right now. Again, the 5 hindrances might be in blossom. The enlightenment factors of mindfulness, and concentration, curiosity and persistence, and tranquility and equanimity and joy could all be in the ascendant right now, and moments of deep insight and pleasure can happen. And then in another moment there can be when life throws one of those giant bowling balls down the alley at us. As Paul Simon said, someone could walk into this room and tell you your life is on fire. So we open to what is, as Sachan Cha put it, to bring your practice into perfect balance in any moment. Simply remember, this moment is like this. It is like this. And we cultivate concentration, the mind's capacity to stay focused, each time we return to the breath. And then we intend to stay there. Initial application and sustained application. Targeting and persisting as intimately as we can with the breath. And please let us remember some of the other threads with which we weave our awakening. I aspire to love and accept myself exactly as I am in this moment. And when I discover that I'm hurting, there's a certain hurting to the hindrances. There's a definite hurting to worry. There's a hurting to hatred. animosity, fear. There's certainly a hurting to grief and loss, sickness, injury, the sickness of loved ones. There's a vast hurting when we open to the world and the dukkha that is everywhere. Whenever there's hurting, I aspire to hold myself in sweet compassion. And in cultivating, allowing to blossom this love and compassion for ourselves, it becomes quite natural to open to the suffering of the world. Of course, we can't contain it all. But the little bit that we can tolerate and let in is our little piece of the web that we can attend to. May all beings everywhere share in the merits of our practice. May our brothers and sisters with wings share in our practice. May all the migrating birds, may the migrating whales share in our practice. May those creatures who live in the trees, the howler monkeys of Costa Rica, the squirrels of my backyard, may those who live on the earth, humans, lemurs, foxes, may all beings share in the merit of our awakening practice. May those who live in the waters, may those who live in both the water and the land, our amphibious friends, may all of our dogs and cats and parakeets, everybody, may those who burrow, those little ground owls that live in the southeast, in all directions to all beings. May we all remember our true great nature. It's relaxing, isn't it, to soften and let ourselves just be love. There's no work to it. It's our natural state. And please now let us come in awareness to the sensation of the buttocks pressed against the chair. Not some image of it or fantasy of it, but the actual aliveness. the back where it touches the chair, the shoulders where there are contacts with cloth, clothing, to the life in the face and the cheeks and the lips. And particularly to the eyes, to the actual sensations of eyes, and maybe let's roll them around in their sockets a little bit, their orbits. And then let's notice the intention for the eyes to open. And let them open. Do the work that's required for them to open. And notice seeing. Seeing. Little living pictures. And I want to share a screen with you. There it is. My front yard. Can you see this, Jim?
Yes, I can.
And
Yes.
I'm going to change the picture. Let me know if it changes.
Yes.
Okay, thank you. Seeing. This city is filled with hundreds of millions of these little flowers right now. And they're not just one kind. All component things are impermanent. It doesn't mean that things just go away. They also come into being. I have an announcement or two. May 29 through June 3rd, you could come and do a 5-day retreat with Donald McEachern and I at Hollyhock on Cortez Island, which is about 100 miles north, maybe a little less than that, of Vancouver in the middle of Desolation Sound. Quite something place. On the third Sunday of each month, third Saturday of each month, Jim teaches Qigong. The next one will be live at PIMC, hopefully. Candle Summers teaches the first and third Sundays at PIMC. Not in person yet. Doug Pullen is on Thursday nights. You're doing Monday nights, so you're not, Jim? We haven't mentioned it in a long time.
Yes, Monday nights at 7 o'clock Pacific time. Thank you.
Specifically Pacific. The practice of generosity underlies this whole practice. I'm reading and teaching this beautiful book, Living Life Fully, about the teachings of Anagarika Munindra. And there's a chapter on generosity that's really quite gorgeous, about how his life was just, you really couldn't give anything to him before he gave it away. It was quite amazing. He was a flow-through mechanism. He would redistribute everything. And PIMC, this living organism, thrives on generosity. And actually, let me go back to this here for a moment. Can I do it? Pum pa pum, pum pa pum, pum pa pum. That's not it. Here it is. Yeah. This was Sunday. Funny, I just forgot how to do this. Here we are. Sunday morning. 104 people in the room by one count. So the practice of generosity goes like this. It's like, oh, I have this little Radio Shack battery tester. I can go like this, or I can go like this. And the more that I go like this, the happier I am. So you are invited, if you'd like, if it would give you pleasure, to become a regular contributor to PIMC. You can do a monthly contribution, and any amount is really helpful, and any amount is important for us. It's the act of letting go that is the setting free. So, what about you? How is your walking through the world of blossoming going this morning?
Robert, this is Had.
I can tell. Hi, Had.
Hi. I'm riding a wave of faith and confidence right now with this practice, loving the experience that I'm experiencing in my life, and inspired to be creating that gold mind meditation community I've started for people with brain injury, learning the Dharma practice. And I don't know how to frame this, but my new superhero is Anagarika Munindra. I'm reading this book in the class, and it's showing up as inspiring, and he's my superhero, and I want to get his awakening. What I want is some coaching from you on how to hold having a superhero like Munindra is occurring. He's like a living being for me right here in the class presence, and I'm loving that. And I'm wanting some. I'm worried that having a superhero fits into some other kind of modality from my past experience of, oh, I want to be the best athlete I can when I'm in high school and like that, and
Well,
striving and working and
As
accomplishing. And
Manindra said to me, take lightly, Robert, take lightly. And I don't know how this will work through the microphone, but I was going through my stuff yesterday and I found an audio tape of Manindra.
You can sit hours together for this.
Oh,
Longer period you can sit.
it's not. It's an antique. You remember these? I'm gonna have to find a. I'm gonna find a decent recorder and record it to digital and clean it up a bit, and then I'll share it with you. So just hold lightly. You're very inspired, and it's very encouraging. I have some big heroes too, like Achan Sumedho and the Buddha and Ruth, and it's encouraging to be around people like that who have such faith and who aren't messing around, who are really devoting their life to practice. So that's you. You've devoted, how many years have I known you? 25, 30? Since way
30.
before PIMC.
Yeah, and I love how the practice. I love how the path arises to me wherever I'm at in my life. All the concerns of raising children, now being a grandfather, all that stuff of life. How the path is always right there, hand in hand, with my personal aspirations and discovering that I don't know anything, and discovering how to create community, how to be a friend, how to be a person, and how to let go of being a person.
Yeah.
All of that.
Thanks, Had.
Yeah.
Paula says, I really loved looking through all the photo albums at PIMC during the cleaning party. Yeah, there's, hang on, I got to close something. There's, on my early retreats, I had books, and people signed them and wrote poems, and they're really quite beautiful documents. I kind of wish I'd continued, but it was just too much, so. Too much to do.
Robert, I put a link into the chat on a video that I discovered recently that I wanted to share. So it's called The Art of Life, and I won't say any more about it. Check it out.
All right, The Art of Life. Do I have a photo of the prayer flags at the PIMC opening? You mean the prayer flags on the outside of the building? Sure. Actually, Jamie Flanagan took a lot of nice pictures. Here we go. I can pop that up pretty quickly, I think. Yeah, here's a couple.
Robert, it's Sandra.
Hi, Sandra.
Hi. The Fire Hose of Life has been quite busy, so I've missed out on hearing how it went on Sunday.
Oh, it was really good.
I want to experience sympathetic joy in what happened on Sunday.
All right. Well, here comes a picture of the exterior of the building, a little decorated. This is the front entrance, of course. Oh, we're back to my tree. Now that's a nice one too. There's another angle. These fruit trees here were planted. Connie planted them 10 years ago or so. And Dave Hyde pruned them again this year. And they produce apples, plums, something else. And we put up a sign that says to the neighbors, "These are for you. So help yourself." And so we have a wonderful sharing with the community. I haven't done this in a long time. We probably should do it. It's not so critical now, but when we moved into the center, which is now almost 20 years ago, it's kind of shocking. We printed something up in English, Spanish, and Russian, describing who we were, and seems to me we invited the neighbors to come for an open house, and by way of befriending them, because we're a bit of a pain on Sunday mornings. We really eat up all their parking. I mean, badly. We do let the neighbors park in our lot, which is part of the trade, but there's just no way to control where people park. So, how was that for pictures, Sandra? Do you feel a little satiated, a little satisfied?
Lovely, lovely. Thank you.
It was a fine event. We had the teachers there, introduced the board, introduced the diversity, equity, and inclusion people. Maggie did a great job with volunteers. There were quite a few new people who had never been there before. A few people drove down from Seattle. And there were 77 people on Zoom and about 80 people on Facebook and YouTube. So we approached 250 people at that first gathering.
And there was one person in a wheelchair.
That's right. That's right. Mark made it. Mark, who has ALS. And at the time of when we started the fundraising, it must be 3.5 years ago or so now, he could still speak well. And so he starred. He was one of the 2 stars in wheelchairs in the advertising video to raise funds, and he managed. It was hard, but he managed to come over. He lives close by. I see him quite regularly. He can no longer he can't really speak at all. He uses his eyes with the computer, and if he pauses on a letter, it takes that letter as what he wants to say. So he actually writes me, I don't know, 2-paragraph emails sometimes. We communicate that way. And I just go and sit with him every other week. I sit with him, or he asks me to talk, and so I talk. ALS, Lou Gehrig's disease, is not a pretty one. Rob says, blessings to the memory of my mother-in-law who succumbed. Oh my. I think of her whenever I see a picture of the ramp. Yeah. I actually didn't see him come in. And I see him, Mark, come in, and I looked over and boom, there he was. They had said that they might come, but kind of startled me. He just sneaked up the ramp and came in. It's a fine thing that we've done. The 2 ADA, American with Disabilities Act, restrooms are not only functional for a person in a wheelchair, they're also downright beautiful. They're really, the construction company that we use, I'll do a little shout out for P&C Construction. If you ever have a significant project to do, they're really the cat's meow. kind people. Very generous. Speaking of generosity earlier, there's something that in the building, in a project of this size or greater, there are contingency funds that are put aside, a certain percentage of the cost. And one runs up against all kinds of things that were unforeseen in a project like this. For instance, we needed to put in a fire door, and we misunderstood something, and it turned out it took 8 people, an engineer, anyway, there were 8 of us there for 2 hours trying to figure out how could we possibly make this door work, and that came in as an extra, an $8,000 expense for this fire door. But there were lots of other little things that came in, and they'd be like, they're really good at costing things, and they'd say, well, if we do this, it's going to cost another $800. And Derek Dingman, the representative of PNC, I don't know how many times he said, we'll take that. We'll take that. So the generosity that was shown by that construction company, and it's partially because of the project that it was and how we were all getting along. At the first building meeting, I asked them all if it would be okay with them if we always sat for 5 minutes in silence before the meetings. This is not what they do in the construction world, but they got into it. We did it, and there's 3 people on Zoom somewhere, and there's 6 of us in the room or 5 of us in the room, and there's saws going in the background, and we just sat there for 5 minutes, and I said that I would consider the project a success if we got it built and we all loved each other at the end. And we did. And there was another amazing human, Kim Knox, who works with SOJ. It's a consulting firm. And she donated huge amounts of time, her personal time. And there was another person, Rick Gustafson, who was kind of our guide along the way. He really kept us together and functioning. And he, too, was all on a volunteer basis. Quite amazing. There is a plaque in the living room. It needs to be on the website, telling the story of Ron Nato coming and studying the Dharma with me on his way to death as he had pancreatic cancer. And the incredible generosity of Ron and his cousin, Ann Nato Campbell, who donated $500,000 to make the project possible. This was, for us, a large project. For PNC, it was this tiny thing. They do $40, $50, $100 million projects regularly. I guess I want to say one more thing. There was a lot of love and joy at the center on Sunday. Really, the importance of Sangha, the connection with Sangha. We do a wonderful thing here on Zoom, and it's very important. And so many people spoke to me and wrote to me about how wonderful it was to see their Dharma friends in person again. So we will persist, having a nest where we can go home to and greet one another. And finally, it was particularly sweet for me in that Jennifer was there. Jennifer, my wife, Jennifer. And my daughter Tara and her partner Dave and his 7-year-old daughter were there, and that was really a nice thing. Here, I think I'm going to be self-indulgent even further. Hang on, please. Can I find it easily? That's not it. Oh, here we are. Here. Jennifer. Allison told her to take home one of the bouquets, so it was really great to have her there. Tara and Dave bought a house less than a mile from PIMC, so that's good. Yeah. What every parent dreams of is that the children will stay nearby. So, anything from you, I will stop. Some of us dream of the opposite. I understand that also, Rob. That caveat was in my mind, but I thought, oh, don't say that. Yeah, sometimes, yeah. He'll go there, you rude person. Oh, there's Molly. Hi, Molly. Hang on a few minutes, and we'll have you lead us in singing. Well, anybody got anything you'd like to share before we go? Well, Molly, I think it's up to you now. Hang on here. I want to spotlight you. You ready? You ready for your picture to come big on the screen? All right. Don't forget to unmute yourself. Please lead us in song. May all beings be happy.
May
All beings be happy. May all beings be happy. May all beings be happy. Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu.
Or be Molly.
Thank you, Molly. We're going to remove the spotlight. Here we go. All right, friends. Thanks for being here. It was a delight. And see you tomorrow. Have a lovely day of blossoming.
Thanks, Robert.
Bye-bye.
Thank
Here
you,
we
Sangha.
go. Turning on.